Well, this is Eric again, and I'm here with George F. Mills. What's the F stand for?
Flavius.
Flavius.
Yeah, that's
Really?
a Roman name.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Can you give me some historical background of Flavius?
Well, my mother had an uncle named Flavius, and he was her favorite uncle. And I guess I heard her talk more about him than any of her relatives, maybe other than her mother and father. And when I was born, she hung that name on me because she liked that. And all my life, all my young life, I went by Flavius. Everybody in Decatur that knew me before I went to service calls me Flavius. And when I went into service, of course, they pick up George F. Mills. And so after I come home, I'd already had that George on F. Mills on everything, so I just kind of hung with George.
Now, do you know anything about the historical Flavius?
Well, he was a Roman knight or soldier, and a pretty popular one in Rome. That's about all I know about him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about him?
That's about it too.
Okay.
Thought he was a centurion, I think.
Something like that. He was in their government some way.
Mm-hmm. Well, the last time we left off, we were in the other room, and we get to see the other side of Flavius's face. And I might just call you Flavius from now on.
I went with that a long time.
Well, we were just inside Luxembourg, and at the last break, and some significant things are going to be happening here. It is the first 2 weeks of December, and things are pretty calm and cool, I guess. And cool is an operative word about the snow and the winter conditions now setting in on the 28th Division E Company, 109th Infantry Regiment. So, without further ado, Centurion Flavius. And if you could describe what was going on, and the name of the town, let me pronounce it right again.
Where were we in?
Yes.
Furen.
Furen. Mm-hmm. And it was a German town?
No, Luxembourg, right on the German border.
Okay.
That whole area, of course, speaks German,
Yes.
And we were holding that town's where all of our troops were. But just down the hill and down the road towards Dykirk was a little village or town of Walls. And that was where our supply sergeant was with his equipment, and where the kitchen had come and set up, because they thought that we would launch attack from Furen over the hill into Germany. We didn't know it was going to be launched the other way, like this way.
And that was soon to happen on the morning of the 16th of
That's
December.
Right. And so I went down the day of the 15th to Walls to visit Bata. Bata's a supply sergeant, and of course the mess sergeant's down there, and nothing was going on up at the front. It was just quiet as it is here. So I spent the night. The Jeeps was down there, so I knew if I needed to get back to the front, the Jeep would jot me back up there in a hurry. So I spent the night down there with Bata. And there's a beautiful house. A guy by the name of Fred owned the house, and he had a rock barn right next to him, garage barn type thing. And Bata and I was bunked down in that barn. And about 5 o'clock the morning of the 16th, I woke up and was rockets coming over. And you know how rockets sound, like they're a brick on a tin roof sliding off.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I was hearing. And then
were they exploding around you?
Yeah, all around. Mm-hmm. And some of them were falling between Walls and Furen, and some of them was going a little over Walls, but the most of them was falling between Walls and Furen, just coming over Furen real easy. But see, there's a pretty big hill up here, and Furen set like here, and walls that like down here.
Mm-hmm.
So the Germans were shelling from over there, so if they cleared that mountain, it was easy for them to miss Furin and fall right below it, between it and walls. So I knew real quick that much artillery coming in, we were in trouble. I was going to have to do something. So I told Bat the Jeep was ready to go up. They're getting breakfast ready for the troops. And the Jeep was getting ready to take the breakfast up. And I told him when he got ready to go, I need to go with him. And so when the first Jeep went up, he had a can of sausage, a can of pancakes, and a can of maple syrup. So as soon as I helped him unload one of the cans, and I went on in and got to Andy and see what was going on up in headquarters to see where I was needed. And so it just got hotter from right there on. We found out that day that the 5th Panzer Division was coming around our left flank, and they'd set tanks up on the top of the hill, using them for artillery. They could cover the village and the road coming up to the village. And then the 373rd Vanguard Division was infiltrating around our right flank. We didn't know who they were right then, but we did later. And so the two were just really got around us and cut us off.
Kind of like a claw pincer.
Yeah, yeah. And so they controlled the road then coming up to us. And that one road come to us went on over the mountain to Germany. And after they come around us and had those tanks up there, they controlled that road. So nobody could get to us anyway. We had called battalion to bring us some ammunition and some help, and they said there's no way they could get to us. There's nobody on our left, nobody on our right, and we was 2 miles out in front of everybody. So they told us to hold at all costs. And so we called them back a couple of times, and I think on the 17th we called them back again and told them the situation. And then when they knocked out our 2 Jeeps, as they brought ammunition and started back, we called again to see if they could anyway get us ammunition or some kind of help, and they said no. And so then the little light tank was down in Walls, and they loaded ammunition on it to bring to us, and it got up there, and then we were going to open the gates when it got close enough to come in the backyard, and then we could use that gun. And I think it had a
37 millimeter.
Yeah, 37 millimeter. Like
it was a Stewart tank.
Like the NI tank.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they got excited because there were so many Germans there. They just took off back down the hill, and they got about halfway down there, and one of those Tigers got them with the 88. So that was the last hope we had for ammunition, and we were running fairly low. That was the 17th, so we decided late the 17th that we started pulling the troops back into that house, and we pulled all the troops out of the different areas where they were in that little village into the house. And we decided to only fire when they was coming over that wall,
which was very close to the front door.
Yeah. You see that picture, right?
Yeah.
So they were all in the town anyways, and so we just trying to keep them out of the house. And we thought maybe some way, somehow, that battalion could get us some help, but never did. So that went on. We started that the night of the 17th. So at night, everything calmed down. They quit doing anything or moving. But the morning of the 18th, they were back again all day. And so they were gathering thicker on the morning of the 18th. And of course, like I said, the only time we would even fire was when they'd come over and start over that wall. And then we held them all that day. For some reason, they didn't realize we was out of ammunition and charged the house, or they was waiting for a bazooka to come up or something. But after dark, the night of the 18th, on the north end of that house, we couldn't protect it because there was no windows in it. it was a rock house, and they turned a bazooka loose on that house. And we were on the second floor, so I went back to see what was happening back there. And when I got back there, they turned another round loose in there, and some of the shrapnel got me over the eye and in the back. And I come back, and just before I come back, they turned the flamethrower in there, in that hole they blew in. And so,
Was there any men in there?
not in that area.
Okay.
They hit it on about the second floor, and the men was in, the soldiers that we'd withdrawn were in the basement in the first floor, and we were on the second floor. And had quite a few of us up there on the second floor, because we was firing out that window to the east and the south and the west. And then when they turned that flamethrower on there, we took inventory of ammunition. We had 6 rounds. So I come back and told Captain Curtin, I said, we only got 6 rounds in the whole bunch here in this whole house. He says, well, call artillery. Artillery was 15 miles back, and I had called artillery the day of the 17th. There was a whole company marching down that road towards us, and I called artillery, gave them the coordinates on where they were, and they fired 1 round, hit right in the middle of them, in the first round. And I asked them to, see what I was having to do. I couldn't talk to artillery. I'd have to talk to G Company. G Company talked to artillery. So I called G Company back after that 1 round hit and told them that they were on target to fire. Well, whether G Company ever told them or not, I don't know, because see, we wasn't talking to artillery. We was talking to G Company, and we couldn't reach artillery because of the terrain, and we could reach G Company. And so then after the house was on fire.
Well, did they continue to fire? Did the artillery?
No, they just fired that 1 round.
1 round.
And you know, usually when you call for artillery to fire, you're talking number 1 gun, and that gun is going on the target. Everybody else is coordinating with him, and if you tell them to fire for effect, all guns will start. But apparently G Company didn't tell them to keep firing. I told G it was on target to fire. Well, G Company didn't report that, apparently. I don't know. And so then when I went back to Captain Curtin the night of the 18th and told him what the situation was in, he says, well, call artillery and tell artillery that in 30 minutes flatten the town, that I'm going to surrender to the company, which was his words. So I called G Company and told G Company what Captain Curtin said. And now how long it took them to call artillery, I don't know. But we went down and turned the civilians out. And when the civilians went out, I guess there's about maybe 15 of them in that house. And the mayor was in that bunch. So as soon as they went out, they shot the mayor. So they must have known he was the mayor. And for some reason shot him. I don't know why. Somebody knew him. And so I thought they'd shoot all of them. And then I thought they'd shoot us because they had no use for us. And you know, by them attacking like that, they needed to move on if they could. So when we went out, we lined up along that wall I showed you there on that street. And of course they checked you to see if you had any weapons, any grenades or anything. And before we went out, we disassembled our weapons, you know, threw them out the window and everywhere else you could. And so they lined us up there, and I was getting kind of easy because I thought that artillery was going to come in there. So I told one of those officers, I said, "You've got a lot of wounded men. You needs attention."
A German officer
Yeah.
in English, yeah.
Yeah, so those were Germans I'm talking about. And he says, well, you guys load them up and get them on that wagon. So we started picking them up and stacking them on that wagon. And I asked him, which way do you want to push that wagon? He said, down that road there. So that road I showed you was the way we went. We started down that road with those wagons, and of course some of those guys was with us. And we got down to edge of town, and artillery started in on the town, but it had been over in 30 minutes. Because, see, we picked those, we went out, sent the civilians out, we went out, and they went through to searched all of us for knives and grenades, I guess, or guns or whatever. And then we picked those guys up and stacked them on that wagon before that artillery ever set in. So it bound to have been 45 minutes or more. And I don't know how much artillery come in, but apparently quite a bit, because we told them to flatten the town. And you know, they start raking. They'll cross rake if you're going to flatten it.
Now you know the people that own the house now.
Yes. Well, the night that, see, I opened the door to let them all out there, the civilians out, and then the captain and Andy and I were probably the first soldiers that went out there that night. And then when we got out there, we lined up, and they, started checking us. And I had a watch on, and my watch, you know how those radium watches are. It was so bright, I had to keep that sleeve down over it. At night, it just really, you could see it far across the room. And one of those soldiers saw it, and he wanted it. He said, "Give me that watch." I told him, "Uh-uh." He kicked the safety off that little burnt gun. And I said, "Well, I better give it to you." So I took it off and gave it to him. But what was that question you asked me?
Good question. I think you answered it.
Okay.
But some other questions coming to mind, and when you did surrender, I mean, you come out of the house with your hands up, or
they wanted your hands up.
And don't shoot, or what did you say?
Well, we never said anything. We just come out because we didn't know whether they was going to shoot or not. And he said, line up along that rock wall down through there. So we did. After they searched us and we got those guys loaded up, well, we
hightailed it down the road.
Started moving them down the road, and so they walked us all night. Now, what they did with
those civilians,
after we got out of that town pretty good, those troops some way took over that wagon, and we didn't take it any further. Now, what they did with it, I don't know.